The large press conference hall buzzed with the excited murmurs of journalists, the rapid clicks of cameras capturing every moment. Angelina Jolie took her place at the podium, her presence commanding attention. She was here to announce a new humanitarian aid project, a cause she had been deeply involved in for years. Her dedication to helping refugees and advocating for human rights was well known. But not everyone in the room was here to support her efforts. Among the journalists sat Richard Grant, a seasoned reporter notorious for his ruthless questioning and controversial takes. His reputation was built on tearing down celebrities, exposing contradictions, and creating sensational headlines. As soon as Angelina stepped onto the stage, Richard smirked to himself. He had a plan. He wasn't here for an interview. He was here to put her on trial. When the moderator opened the floor for questions, Richard wasted no time. He leaned forward, adjusted his microphone, and made his first move. Richard, smirking, speaking with feigned curiosity. Ms. Jolie, for years you've spoken about humanitarian efforts, refugees, and global crises. But let's be honest, this is just a PR move, isn't it? At the end of the day, you're an actress. Shouldn't you leave world issues to actual experts? The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some journalists exchanged glances, sensing the loaded nature of the question. Angelina remained still. She didn't blink. She didn't shift in her seat. After a beat of silence, she responded. Angelina, calmly with a measured tone, tell me, Richard, how many humanitarian projects have you personally worked on? Richard was caught off guard. He hadn't expected a counter question so soon. He hesitated for a second, but quickly regained his composure. Richard, chuckling, shaking his head. Oh, well, I'm a journalist. My job is to report, not to participate. Angelina gave a slow nod, her expression unreadable. Angelina. Exactly. And yet you feel comfortable sitting here, judging those who actually take action? A murmur spread across the room. Some journalists scribbled notes. Others simply watched, intrigued. Richard shifted in his seat, but he wasn't done yet. Richard, leaning forward slightly. Okay, let's talk about celebrity hypocrisy. Hollywood loves a good charity cause, but how much of this is real? Would you actually take in a refugee yourself? A few people in the audience raised their eyebrows. It was clear what Richard was trying to do. Angelina, however, didn't hesitate. Angelina, softly but firmly. I already have. The room fell silent. Richard blinked. This was not the answer he had expected. Angelina, continuing, her voice steady. Over the years, I have personally sponsored refugees, helped them resettle, and supported them in building a new life. These aren't just statistics to me, Richard. They are real people, real families, and I have done everything in my power to assist them. Richard cleared his throat, searching for something, anything to regain control. Richard, crossing his arms, trying to sound unimpressed. That's great, but let's not act like you're sacrificing your own comfort. You have mansions, wealth. Your life isn't affected by these causes the way it is for ordinary people who struggle every day. So why should they take advice from someone who has never known hardship? Angelina let out a small sigh, then leaned forward slightly. Angelina, Richard, do you think privilege should stop someone from doing good? Richard hesitated. Angelina, pressing on. If someone with resources and influence chooses to help those who have neither, does that make their contribution any less valuable? Richard opened his mouth, but no words came out. Angelina continued. Angelina, I don't claim to understand what it's like to grow up in extreme poverty, but does that mean I shouldn't try to help? Should doctors refuse to treat diseases they've never had? Should firefighters only save homes they've lived in? Should journalists only report on things that have happened to them personally? The murmur in the room grew. Journalists scribbled faster. Cameras zoomed in. Richard's confidence was visibly shaking. Richard exhaled sharply, clearly irritated. He wasn't used to losing control of the conversation. He flipped through his notes, searching for something, anything to regain the upper hand. Then he found his next move. Richard, smirking again. All right, let's shift gears. You advocate for human rights, yet you work in an industry that's been accused of exploiting women, underpaying workers, and glorifying excess. Doesn't that make you complicit? Some journalists nodded. It was a fair point, but it was also another trap. Angelina didn't react immediately. Instead, she let his words settle, allowing the weight of the question to hang in the air. Then she leaned in, her voice steady, her eyes unwavering. Angelina, Richard, tell me, Do you believe that staying silent in the face of injustice is the answer? Richard hesitated. Angelina, pressing on, because that's what you're implying. That if an industry has flaws, I should turn my back on it rather than fight to change it from within. If I did that, would it solve anything? Richard opened his mouth, but no words came out. Angelina took a deep breath and continued. Angelina, I use my platform to push for better policies, to expose the injustices you're talking about, and to support women and marginalized communities. If I walked away, what would that accomplish? Would the problems suddenly disappear? The room stayed silent. Angelina let her words linger, then delivered the final blow. Angelina, leaning back slightly. So tell me, Richard, what have you done to change things? Richard's lips pressed into a thin line. He had no comeback. Richard glanced at his notes again, but he knew there was no way out. The audience was no longer watching a journalist control an interview. They were watching Angelina dismantle him, piece by piece. Finally, Richard sighed, shaking his head. Richard, mumbling, I suppose I walked into that one. A few people chuckled. Even Richard's supporters could see the shift in power. Angelina smiled politely but didn't gloat. She had made her point. Angelina, calmly, we all walk into our own truths eventually, Richard. The room erupted into applause. Richard sat back in his chair, visibly defeated. Angelina Jolie didn't just walk away from this press conference with her reputation intact. She gave a lesson in integrity. But Richard, he fell into his own trap. Do you think Angelina's response was powerful enough? What would you have done in her place? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the discussion. If you enjoy powerful stories like this, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next video. Until then, take care.